I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Allegiance to the flag.
I gotta take that off, can't breathe either. Future meetings. The next town council meeting will be Monday, July, oh, actually, we want to change that. Do we want to do that now?
You want to give me a minute?
The next, we would like to have the next town meeting for Monday, July 13th, 2020. Is that okay with everyone? We're going to change it from the 6th because it's a holiday weekend and people coming back from vacation. Is all commissioners okay with the 13th of July?
Yes, that works for me.
Sure. I'm good.
Sure.
Okay. Planning and zoning. Oh, we don't have no planning and zoning. Everything else has been canceled. Okay. Alrighty, that's the only meeting in July. July 13th.
I think we have Zach also.
Have Zach?
Yes.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, is Zach there too?
Yes.
May I have a
Oh,
moment?
okay.
May I have a moment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor would like to speak for a moment.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and commissioners. Just to give you an update on the COVID-19, the state of Maryland has 53,327 cases, 2,431 deaths. That's up 21 deaths in the 24-hour period. The line is going down, but it's still out there. The county, 1,928 cases and 99 confirmed deaths. We have in our zip code 21727, 19 confirmed cases. That's slightly up, but they're only confirmed cases. The health department will not give us any further information on that as how that's turning out. If we could, just for a very brief moment, this is a very precious country to me, and I've been around a little bit longer than a lot of people, and just a moment of silence for a few seconds that everybody can come together and we can pull out of these two things. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Okay, we have approval of meeting minutes for May 4th. Has everybody read the minutes and are okay with the minutes?
Yes.
For May 4th.
One modification, sir.
What page?
Okay, trying to pull it correctly under commissioner comments for myself, for Commissioner O'Donnell. Mr. Sweeney, just to verify, you don't have a screen available, is that correct?
Yeah, no, I do not. I just
Okay,
hear
all
you.
right, so I'm identifying myself for that reason, so you know.
Okay.
There's a comment that was, I won't say misquoted, but misstated here in the minutes regarding my interactions with the staff of Senator Cardin. A trail connecting the Potomac River to Gettysburg is not underway, and the minutes reflect that. There are discussions related to a trail such as this. And I just want to clarify that for the record, that it's not something that is planned and being executed and happening, but rather there are very, very, very preliminary discussions related to it. And that's what I was trying to communicate in the meeting, but I think it was misunderstood.
Okay. Maddie will make the corrections.
Thank you.
Other than that, does anybody else have anything they want to correct or change for May 4th? Hearing none, I need a motion to accept the May 4th town meeting minutes as presented or as changed.
I make a motion to accept the town meetings from May 4th as changed.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Burns, second by Commissioner O'Donnell. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. I need the meeting minutes for May 18th. Is everyone okay with the meeting minutes as presented for the May 18th meeting?
Yes, sir.
Okay, hearing no changes, I need a motion to accept the meeting minutes as presented.
I make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from May 18th as presented.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Burns. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Davis. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0. Police report, Deputy Whitehouse.
Good evening. Well, this is the police report. It's going to combine, I guess, March, April, and May. Let's see here. March, there wasn't really anything noteworthy. And I don't have all the combined traffic stops and all that stuff, but those are way down, obviously. Trying to minimize our contact with the public due to the COVID-19. I do have, let's see, there's nothing noteworthy, like I said, in March. In April, there was 2 overdose calls. The victims did survive those. Believed to be opioid related, but the victims were uncooperative, and they didn't want to give us any kind of information as to, what they were doing or what they were using. Had some complaints of some trespassers in boats on the Scott Road Farm ponds, and as far as leaving a bunch of trash and stuff back there. So myself and Deputy Ahalt, Commissioner Davis went out there one day and just kind of looked over things. I've been out there several other times on foot, just walking back, and it looks like people are still hanging out in that area. Not a whole lot of trash being left, but they are continuing to go back there, it looks like, based on tracks and just leaving a little bit of small amounts of trash that we just kind of pick up. There was a theft out of a vehicle in April, and I know I've said this like several times over the years, to lock your vehicles and take items of value out of, just take them out of sight, but lock your vehicles. And going to this month here, or last month in May, I know there was some other trespassing complaints of, I think kayaks, I believe, out on Rainbow Lake. Our agency, we've kind of passed that on. Us and DNR will kind of look to monitor that on the weekends, even not on the weekends, during the week, even in the evening times. And I go up there several times during the day too. There were some burnouts in the square. I guess somebody decided they wanted to peel out on the square and leave a bunch of burned rubber marks on the new asphalt area going across there. So we're going to try to figure out who that is, and we'll see what we're going to do with that. There was a burglary to a vacant home last week on West Main Street. I think I've kind of narrowed down who that was, and I'll deal with that. And the Christ Community Church food pantry has been vandalized a few times. Those who aren't aware, Pastor John and the people at Christ Community Church, so they have like a little food cabinet on the outside of the building that they store. They put food in for people. And it's free to come take whenever, take what they want, take whenever, whenever you want to. I think there's three incidents up to right now. I think they've occurred in the last week and a half where people, probably kids, are opening up items like spaghetti sauce and pouring it all over the cabinet, throwing it all over the sidewalk, breaking some glass and all that kind of stuff. So we're taking measures to kind of find out who that is, and we'll deal with that when the time comes, when we find out who that was. That's really it. I mean, like I said, there's no other traffic stats. We've been on several walking patrols, done a lot of patrol checks. It's beginning to be bike season, so we can start doing that again. Mainly just been out, patrolling neighborhoods, been out on foot in the parks, keeping around the businesses down here, while we're just can't do a lot of proactive traffic stop stuff like that. So Any questions for me?
Thank you. Any question? Yes, go ahead.
Can you, I reached out to DNR to get what we need to do to post the duck ponds, if it's paint or signs. Can you send me whatever the recommendation is so staff
Sure.
can do that?
Yep,
All right.
sure.
Any
I have
any questions?
I have
for-
one more question for him.
Go ahead, Mr. Burns.
Deputy Whitehouse, I was speaking with Deputy Ahalt actually several times over the last couple weeks. With you guys patrolling over at Scott Road Farm and then also up in Rainbow Lake and some of the other areas, Deputy Ahalt had mentioned something about you guys possibly looking at, would it be helpful to have an SUV for you guys? Is that something that would have to come through us, or does that have to go through Frederick County for you guys?
It would probably have to go through probably the town manager, maybe. I'd have to kind of see where, I mean, it's a recommendation. I mean, we can always ask. But I mean, it would help getting up to areas like Scott Road Farm, back to those ponds, definitely. So,
I think the
Yes, it would
request
help.
would be best suited coming from the mayor to the
Okay.
sheriff, requesting that. And I don't know if the sheriff in his procurement would have one available then.
yeah, I mean, they definitely do come out, would be helpful, like I said, just for driving back to like Scott Road Farms. And there's, you know, stuff that's kind of left, like bikes and stuff, that'd be easier just to put in the back and, you know, bring back, or, because, you know, we don't have any way to transport bikes or anything like that, so.
Are you talking about a Gator type vehicle or an ATV four-wheeler?
No, we're talking about an SUV, police cruiser.
Okay, okay.
Yes, yes.
Any other questions for Mr. Whitehouse?
I've got just one concern.
Okay, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much. It's just that you're widening your purveyor area, and, you know, we just don't want to lose attention on what, of our town. I know we got these rural areas, and I know you'll use the best judgment there, but it's asking a lot more from you, and instead of attention down here.
As far as, like, you mean up at Rainbow Lake and that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Okay.
You're going out there, and you've got to go to the mountain a little bit, and then you got to come down here.
Yeah.
And it's getting, it's stringing you out a little bit, I would think, and I'm concerned about that, but that's something we can all discuss later.
Okay,
I think.
sure.
Any other questions for the deputy? Thank you, Mr. Whitehouse, for coming.
Thank you.
Sure. Have a good evening.
Nice to see you.
You too. Thank you.
See you. Town managers report, Kathy?
Good evening. This is the manager's report for April of 2020. I'll just highlight some of the key areas. Related to streets, staff repaired and replaced some of the street signs around town. In the parks, they conducted their daily park checks. They conducted the monthly park maintenance, and we're really getting busy with mowing, trimming, and weed killing in the parks. Contractor took down and trimmed some trees in Emmett Gardens and Silo Hill for safety. Staff prepped all the park restroom buildings and the dog park for the summer months. Staff planted 11 donated silky dogwood trees in Community Park. Contractor completed installation of the new pole lights and a camera for Community Park all-inclusive playground. Related to water, Rainbow Lake is still at the spillway level of 16.6 feet. The wells, you'll see listed for the 5 wells, the optimum levels. Water production and consumption, we produce an average of 226,179 gallons per day and consumed 186,340 gallons per day. The difference is backwash water at 12.4%. Of the water produced in the month of April, 73.5% of the water came from Rainbow Lake, which is very good. We purchased 431,380 gallons of water from the Mount in the month of April. At the wastewater treatment plant, we received 6.95 inches of precipitation. The average is 3.8. However, we are still at a deficit of about 1.05 inches over the last 6 months. At the plant, we treated an average of 691,000 gallons per day and consumed 186,340 gallons per day, which means 54.4% of the wastewater treated was wild water. We had no spills of untreated sewage in the month of April. However, looking at it, with 7 inches of rain at the wastewater treatment plant, There were no spills, and we're seeing a positive impact on the overall flows at the pump station. We had only slight flooding on April 30th when we received 2+ inches of rain that day alone. So we're making a lot of progress between the sewer relining and the initial work that staff has done at the pump station. We did exceed the plant's design capacity 4 times in the month of April, and I've listed those dates. Trash pickup remains the same, remains Mondays in the month of July. Below that, you'll see all the meetings and conference calls I attended in the month of April. Some noteworthy items: the staff continues to work at the 140 bridge locating valve boxes. They also dug out and raised the curb box of 502 East Main Street for the bridge project. Fire hydrant number 11 was put out of service due to a vehicle accident, but it has since been repaired. And there was a question at the last meeting about sludge removal. The wasting was adjusted down to 4,000 gallons per day, so we do not anticipate any increases with people being at home. That is the manager's report for April.
Any questions for the town manager at this time?
No,
I
sir.
have a question. Excuse me, I have a question.
Commissioner Burns? Go ahead.
Excuse me, Kathy, I know we had spoken about the, and I know State Highway suggested about putting in the digital radar sign on the, right by the 140 bridge. Has there been any progress with that or any movement towards any of that stuff?
No, I was going to have an update for everybody at the July meeting. Working on some different angles with that, and we need to do it in conjunction with the state police to work both issues at the same time. So I'm hoping to have an update in July.
Now, to follow up with that, that's considered state highway, correct? So
Yeah.
like a speed ticket camera or anything of that nature could not go on that road?
It would have to be approved by State Highway to put
Okay.
a sign up, or, the deputies, I've seen them out there, and I know that they've been doing some enforcement in that area.
But I kind of like to echo what Deputy Whitehouse said, they've been kind of trying to avoid some of the stops, obviously, to avoid interaction and things of that nature. And I know Thurmont had recently put one in by their school and police station there. And with the 2 schools in town, it's just a thought about, the possibility of putting a speed camera or something of that nature in there to, hopefully lessen some of the issues that we have, and, also to prevent some of that interaction for our deputies, that they don't have to, be constantly interacting with people who are obviously flying through town.
Right. So we started looking at speed signs, I believe, several years ago. The mayor did, for different areas in the town, and we just have to work with state police on that one and State Highway. Sometimes the best that you can do is a presence. So I know that they've been sitting out there, and hopefully we can get it turned around fairly quickly.
All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
No, sir.
Okay, I just want to say, I seen one last week in Howard County attached to a speed limit sign. It was just a speed, and then if you were going over the 35-minute or 35 miles per hour, red and blue lights were flashing on like a police officer or right underneath and it was just attached to the speed limit sign. It was run by solar, I think.
Right. There are many options available. I know the one the State Highway recommended was a temporary sign, because they find that anything that's there for a considerable length of time, it loses its effectiveness, because people then just don't pay attention to it. So they had a lot of recommendations, and then we have to weigh our options. Some of them are very costly, but some would be reasonable for us. So I'm hoping to have more information at the July meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner comments?
Planners report.
Oh, I missed the planner. Planners report. Zach, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, so this is the planner's report for April 2020. I continued working on some proposed zoning and subdivision ordinance amendments. I'd say 90% of this is basically grammatical errors and updating odds and ends. The last significant update's been 1999. So Grants, miscellaneous pool house mural. As you all hopefully know, that the pool house mural is completed. Hopefully you guys all like it. I know the mayor, Kathy, and I love it. So Census grant, community legacy grant, and Keep Maryland Beautiful grant management. I completed the community legacy quarterly reports for fiscal year 19 and 20. I submitted some community legacy reimbursement requests. For MS4, I continued working on the South Hill Basin retrofit project management. We were working on the contract. Worked on updating the current year MS4 report. Under permits, I issued 5 zoning permit applications and responded to various incident reports. Under Planning Commission, miscellaneous Rudders, Duncan, and insurance brokers of Maryland project. To give an update on Duncan, they are going to start any day now. They received they got the contractor, and they're just working with him right now to get started. Reviewed and revised the insurance brokers of Maryland site plan and updated Planning Commission staff memo. Under miscellaneous, I attended a conference call with the mayor and a potential developer of Emmett Ridge on the 9th. The current owner of the property reduced the price significantly, so we've been getting a lot of interest for that property. And also I attended a Frederick County Census Committee conference call, and those are the main things for the month.
Any questions for Zach at this time?
Just a quick item, Mr. Goldman, I'm sorry, which is the property that had the price lower and is now getting attention?
Oh, sure. So that's Emmett Ridge.
Okay, thank you. Gotcha.
Emmett Ridge
Thank
2,
you,
the
sir.
development, is that what you're talking about?
Correct. Yep.
Any other questions for Zach? I have one, just in case. I asked Matty earlier, but since I didn't know you were on the line, I wanted to know what they consider for the legacy grant. What's considered Main Street, just east and west, or is north and south considered Main Street also?
North and south also.
North and
It's
south
all in
also?
the village district.
Oh, okay. That answered my question. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions before we move on? Hearing none. Commissioner comments? Commissioner Burns?
Yes, thank you. I spent the last week trying to think about what possibly I could say at this meeting, knowing this was coming up. It's been obviously a very tumultuous week, to say the least. I've been given an opportunity in my lifetime to coach, to travel, to participate, to be with professional athletes, Olympic level athletes, and travel the world and see things that, some people would never see. And to see what some of my former athletes and former coaches and everything are going through, it's been very difficult. And I can't pretend to understand what anybody's going through during this obviously very difficult time. But for me, I think the best thing I can say is I stand there with you, and I will continue going forward as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Burns, well put. Moving forward, a couple things relate to people who have contacted me with questions, and I've tried to follow up, if not with staff, with other folks. A concern came forward from an individual related to the collection of money for personal protection equipment, and it wasn't being done by the Vigilant Hose Company. I received a number of questions about this. So finally, I spoke to members of the Vigilant Hose Company. I spoke to members of the EBPA. And after speaking to the EBPA, I became more comfortable with it. I think the concern was in the language of the request, they had mentioned the word emergency. And I think that kind of adds the connotation of the hose company and the former ambulance company. So I didn't want anybody to misunderstand that, The personal protective equipment that was purchased with that money went to where it should have gone and was made available to the community in a number of places, including at the Jubilee. But there were some real concerns about that. Next item, the couple of recent emails, sorry, one recent email related to the restaurant permit process. And I think we're in good shape on that. The restaurant permit process for outdoor seating. So, Mr. Golden, I'd like to follow up with you tomorrow so I can get back to the person who contacted me, so I have a better understanding, so I can, you know, monopolize your time for half an hour, I hope, and I can follow up and find that out from yourself. Beyond that, let's see. The mayor was kind and allowed staff to meet me on the mountain at the trails to discuss the trails. And afterwards, we met with our representative from the DNR regarding the forestry work. I think when we get to the budget, I'll go into more detail. But his view was the contractor, the forester, had met his requirements. And he was, in his opinion, comfortable with allowing the bond to be released to the contractor. And that's sort of a follow-up to where we had left things in our last conversation. I'd kind of anticipated that, which is where I was going. But if we can, again, talk about that during the budget, that would be great. I also have had complaints by email and in conversations with folks in the neighborhood and downtown about speeding on 140. I have seen the deputies parked on 140 or near 140 for enforcement purposes, and thank you to them for doing that. And what was the other item? Oh, a question came up this evening. There are trees being cut at the Jubilee property, and the question is, will there be a sidewalk connection to near the new bridge to the sidewalk in front of Jubilee? And I don't know if we're in a position where we can answer that yet, but that relates to the trees being removed on the south side of the Jubilee structure. So that's it. And again, you know, these are difficult times. We will move forward, and we just have to be aware of, you know, looking out for one another, you know, taking care of one another. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Ritz? Commissioner Ritz, go ahead. Joe, are you there?
We may have lost him, sir. I don't see him in the digital lineup on our screens.
Okay, Commissioner Davis, are you there?
Yep, I'm here. Thanks.
Uh,
Hey, the only thing I had was a couple people have been asking about parking meters, when they're going to go back in, and I had comments both ways. Some think they should go back in now, and others think they should stay out until things clear up a little bit more. So I just didn't know what anybody's thoughts were. That's all I got.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Rich, are you there? Not yet. Okay, I'll go. I just want to bring up Community Day. There's been many changes for Community Day. We are still having the fireworks at 9:45 p.m. in Community Park. We're also having stick time play from 6:30 to 9:45 in the bandstand. I think we are getting a couple of food trucks maybe, and a couple of maybe an ice cream truck to come down to the park, because there will be no other events that day. The swimming pool will not be open yet for the public. The Lions Club will not be participating in all. They're all over, most of them except for myself and my wife, and maybe 2 or 3 others are underneath or over 60 or 70 years old. So they're afraid to come out until this crisis is over. So, but we will not be having a parade. The parade is also canceled. But we will be having the fireworks, because the donations came in for the fireworks already for this year, and they were already half paid for. So we have enough money to pay for them for this year, so we're going ahead and do that. and we have enough money to start to put the down payment on for next year's fireworks already, for the donations that came in this year. So the townspeople and all the businesses were very generous, even though we were all in a crisis. Most people that donated last year have donated again this year. They might not donate as much, but they've all donated something. So we appreciate the town citizens and the town businesses for helping keep the fireworks and stuff going for this year. That's all I have. Thank you. Commissioner Rich, are you there?
So I got a message that says he's lost his signal,
Oh, okay.
looking for permission to come into the town office and speaker in off another phone.
Can he sit in the audience in the back? Oh. That's fine. I don't have a problem if it goes into another office.
He could go back to the commissioner's office.
Okay, that's fine. Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you very much. I'd like to start off by presenting a check from the town of $1,500 to you, Mr.
Fine.
President, and also as president of Lions for fireworks.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Whatever we
I
can do.
appreciate it.
Man, whatever. Good enough. Thank you. That's, a
We
good-
appreciate it, and that helps us pay for our fireworks for this year and gets a down payment for next year. We appreciate the towns.
I meant to give you that at a meeting, special meeting with the Lions
Yeah,
clubs.
we've been all busy.
March 8th, but that happened. During this month, we've had 5 teleconferences with the county executive, and they usually circle around waiting for a press release from the governor. Myself and our town manager, Willits, joins in every week, and we had 2 this week. And one thing you have to understand is that we have a meeting, then we to figure out what the governor said the last time, then he says something new, then we have another meeting to kind of interpret it. And like this week, we're left with, you can have outdoor seating, but there's a string of things you have to have done by the, we permit it in our code downtown for restaurants to have outdoor seating, but what comes with it is a lot of health department issues and special things, so it's never clean. And also the pool, we could have 25% use of the pool. Now we're trying to make sense out of that because of all the things you have to have. You have to be 6 feet apart from everybody in the pool and around the pool and in the locker rooms. And we're going to try to see if we can wait this out a little bit to see if we can get up to about 50%, because we'd have to hire extra guards, and I really want the pool to be open. I think all the commissioners do, all the staff does, but we're going to have to see where we are with this and what's permitted as use. But right now, we're looking to probably in the first week of July. I think that would be a target for us that we can sensibly rely on. If something happens earlier than that, but we still need 2 weeks to get set up and figure out what we've got. But all these things, they always do this. The governor says you do this, and these. No criticism of the governor, but it's just we have to read the small print. Baseball is back. I think they're practicing on the fields, and they can't play games or regulations but you can train. And I want to thank Commissioner Davis. And I took a walk like Friday morning up near the senior field. As I mentioned to Commissioner Davis, said, "Wow, that looks really rough." And on the next day, it was perfect. Somebody had taken care and cleaned it up. Very special. We have our weekly COVID-19 updates about 1 o'clock on Wednesday or Thursday. We've had Dr. Trainer this month, County Executive Gardner, Executive Director of Business Development for the county, Helen Profiter, and Alderman Roger Wilson, who used to be the Director of Government Affairs with up until February this year. This week we will have Jen Clemens, the principal of Catoctin High School, to help us figure out a couple things, and she'll be at 1 o'clock on this Wednesday. I attended the Mount St. Mary's Liberal Arts Advisory meeting. It was a virtual meeting, and again, let's see, we got one more down here. I want to talk about the MML Frederick County Chapter Program Open Space Grant Funding Distribution Meeting. It's like Russian roulette to get everybody has to go back and forth and bid and everything like that. And we did get our full request for $30,750 for two, I'll call them mini pavilions, something like that. And very gracious, I want to thank all the mayors for letting me, whatever, but for our town. I think I've got everything. Thank you for your time, sir.
You're welcome. I have one question, and I don't know if Maddie can answer that or not, or Kathy. The too many pavilions that we got, are they going into the concrete spaces that we have for the mini pavilions already?
No, one is going back near the walking trail, new disc golf, back on that side of Community Park. And then the second one is going.
Both of them are going back in the back to me.
Okay.
In the back?
We're lucky that we got anything. The mayor
No,
had,
I didn't know if they was going to go use them concrete pads I had put in when I first became commissioner 20-some years ago.
Well, I think the goal is to expand the bandstand with the next, or the grant we're hoping to get approved. Or did we get approved? We're still waiting.
They have to send the official letter, but we have the funding.
Okay, so we're hoping to expand and renovate the bandstand,
Okay.
so.
Thank you.
Commissioner Sweeney, can I ask a follow-up question to the mayor?
Commissioner Burns, go ahead.
No. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr.
Mayor
Burns.
Briggs, I know you mentioned the pool and trying to get to, obviously when they're going to allow 50% capacity. Who's going to be in charge of enforcement for that? Is that going to be on the pool company that we've hired to run the pool, or is that going to be on the town, or how is that going to work? Because I just worry, is the pool company set up to handle that kind of pressure of counting numbers in, out, and people, coming and lines forming or anything of that nature?
That's the way it is each week when something's said it's okay. It's a question the town manager and I have been talking about, and maybe we're discussing all this, and it's still a probability and maybe just a possibility to get this thing open with all those responsibilities. I'll hand off to town manager Wiltz.
Go ahead, Kathy.
We're going to work with the pool management company tomorrow. We're going to phone call into them, but it's the responsibility falls on their staff and their lifeguards, which reading the restrictions or the guidelines for pool operations, it puts an enormous burden on their staff to not only count the people that are in the pool, but watch the people that aren't in the pool, question people that are coming in, the additional cleanings. So it's going to fall on them to decide at some point whether or not this is worth it to them, if they can even hire enough people. So we're going to have that conversation with them tomorrow. Because one of the requirements is you measure your surface water and divide it by 36, and that's how many number of people you can have in the pool. So not only does your lifeguard have to maintain safety and watch the people that are in the pool, but then you have to have somebody that's responsible for counting the number of people that are in the water at the same time. So we're going to work with them and see what they say.
Commissioner Sweeney.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Sweeney.
Just a quick follow-up. Can someone go let Commissioner Ritz in? He's at the door and forgot his keys.
Oh, okay.
Maddie's on her
Maddie.
way.
She's on her way down.
Thank you.
Mr. Sweeney?
Yes, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, sir. A follow-up question. Where was the second pavilion going to be located? I heard one is going into...
They're both going into the back end of the park, back near the trails.
Okay.
The walking path.
Because there's no pavilions or anything back by those ball fields, and there are a lot of people that use both ball fields in the back part of the community park.
Okay. Are these, I don't recall the size of them. You're calling them mini ones. Were these designed for like one picnic table? Is that the right?
They basically are one picnic table with a covering.
Okay. Thank you.
Will they have a grill and a trash can?
No grill,
Just a trash
but
can?
they'll probably have a trash can in the general area, yes.
I've got two things.
I think Zach's working on a grant to get more trash cans for the parks.
That's correct. We actually just got 6 more,
Okay.
but
Perfect.
I'll apply every year.
Who was that, Commissioner Ritz?
That was Zach.
Oh, Zach?
Okay, I'll just,
Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry, I just have 2 more points. We have a Main Street meeting with Helen Profiter's group this Wednesday, so that's moving along our enrollment there. She really jump-started that. We were hitting a stone wall there for about 6 months. We are getting some news we don't like from MDE on grants for the clarifier and also for some of our piping. We're trying to go back and see if we want to make sure we're getting the correct read, but they've turned us down for grant money on that. We're looking toward maybe options with the commercial banks, and also there may be that our town manager could tell us a little bit more, but I think we have something with USDA possibly. Am I correct on this?
Right, so we receive, what MDE does is send out a notice of priority funding before they award the funds, and then they rank the projects and then tell you basically if you're going to get the funding or not. So we did not rank high enough. The clarifier ranked high, but not high enough. Our 2 water lines did not come close to ranking high enough to receive funding. Ms. Shaw reached out to MDE today to find out why. Her calculations were a little bit different than what MDE came back with. So what we're waiting for them to get back with us. The clarifier is a priority, and even if MDE were to change their mind, the project couldn't begin until May of 2021. So I think the mayor and Ms. Shaw and I are going to explore some other options and try to get some commercial funding for the clarifier, and then we'll reach out to USDA because they've been very receptive to all our requests and see about getting a grant to at least to do the 2 water lines in town.
North Seaton and DePaul Street.
North Seaton and DePaul Street.
Any other questions at this time with the Mayor Cathy?
No, sir.
Commissioner Ritz, are you on?
He just walked back.
Is he on there yet, Matty?
He just walked down the hallway. He's probably getting on.
While we're waiting for Mr. Ritz, just curiously, do we know how our percentage is now regarding the census count?
Zach?
We're a little over 63%.
So we've kind of held flat since the last meeting, it sounds like?
Pretty much. That does not include, however, the nursing home across the street, the Seton Village. So we probably are around 70% in all reality.
Okay, well, let's hope we can do better.
Yeah, we did just send out a letter in the sewer and water bills. And just so people know, we are giving away an iPad. So if you send in your confirmation for your census to Terry, we'll enter you into a raffle. And it's worth approximately $500. So it's a pretty nice raffle.
So they have to send it into the town office, is that right?
That's correct.
Can they send in like an email with a photo attachment? Is that enough?
Yeah, that'd be sufficient.
Great.
We also have some more money left over in our grant. So Kathy, Maddie, and myself and the mayor, we're looking at different options, maybe more mailers. We're just really trying to put it across to people.
And when's our deadline again?
The census will end on August 30th.
Okay.
So, however, people are now going to be starting to knock on doors and following COVID regulations. But if you don't want people to knock on your doors, make sure you fill it out as soon as possible.
Great. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you. Is Joe on?
One other thing about the census is we were about 51% in 2010. So we did blow that out of the water. So we're pretty happy about that.
That's good.
The restaurants have been very helpful with, aren't they packaging some of their takeout food in totes that say the census 2020, right, Zach?
Yeah, the restaurants have been great. We give them these yellow totes that say census 2020, and they've been using it for all their takeout. So,
Actually, Zach, to follow up with that, do you guys have any more of those yellow totes available?
I actually just ordered some today.
I know the Odd House would be more than happy to continue handing those out for you if you'd like.
That'd be awesome. Yeah, we'll definitely take in 50 or more when we get that order in.
Awesome.
We want to move into the lines.
Maddie just went back to check on him, if you want to maybe give him a minute.
Why don't we do the treasurer report while we're waiting on Joe to get connected up?
Okay.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes, sir. Thank you. The cash balance as of May 1st, 2020 was $4,939,651. Deposits were in the amount of $75,380. Withdrawals were in the sum of $73,704. The operating balance forward, therefore, is $4,941,327. And these are the top 10 checks, and staff hopefully is available to discuss them if you have questions.
Is there any questions about any of the check items at this time? Hearing none, we'll move on. Discussion of pool rates, are we doing do that?
Oh, that's me. I think that was
That was C.
Commissioner Burns' request, I think.
Commissioner Burns?
Yes.
We have discussion about the pool rates for 2020. If the pool opens up, you had some concerns or you wanted some changes from the last meeting?
It wasn't as much a change. It was more of a question of how locked in are we at those pool rates? Because obviously with, you know, as you mentioned in the last meeting, that if and when we have the pool open, depending on what the governor says, how reliant are we on the numbers that we've put out based on the current fee structure, with it, you know, going to more than likely be an abbreviated pool season, and with, you know, little options for many of our residents to do anything outside in a structured format such as pools or stuff like that. Would we be able to drop the rates at all, or is that pretty locked in stone right there?
I had the rates with me, and I guess I left them on my desk. So in talking to, I'm trying to look them up on my phone. In speaking with staff, so the rates have been the same since at least 2005. And I mean, as you know, the pool is not a moneymaker. We don't make any money off the pool.
Correct.
We lose money every year operating the pool. So, I mean, that's a decision for the board, but, you know, at 50% capacity, I think that's the max you're going to see this year. I don't think he's going to give anything more than that. You know, I could be wrong, but the rates are, what are they, $3 or $4? I'm trying to get my phone to pull up.
I know senior citizens was cheaper.
Right. So if you look at the budget and look at the revenue that the pools brought in last year, we're definitely not going to get the groups that we got. So I don't know. That's a decision for the board. I'm sorry that I don't have them with me.
No, it's not a problem, and it's more just thinking outside the box, because obviously with the pandemic hitting, and obviously there's financial, you know, burdens on every one of us, but we still want people to enjoy the pool and take full use of it if and when it opens. Would some kind of concession on the rates be helpful to, you know, the members of our community?
I have a suggestion, maybe if it'll work out. We all voted on having the pool open for Community Day for 1 day free for the town. Can we do that if we open the pool this year, could the first day of opening be free for everyone to come for that 1 day?
I wouldn't see why not, but that's a decision for you guys. mean,
I know we
don't
voted
see
for
why
the community
why
day,
you
but we're not
couldn't.
having that, I mean, it's not gonna be open for that.
Commissioner Sweeney, I agree with you completely, but my only fear with that is obviously at 50% capacity, you have, I'm not positive what our 50% is going to be. Is that 100 people? Is that 75 people? What if there is a run on the pool and we have 300 people show up because it is a free day? Are we going to have a line of people standing? It's going to be very difficult to have everybody standing, quote unquote, 6 feet apart at that point in time. And, do we run the risk of, obviously issues because of that?
You'd have to turn people away. And I think the capacity, and I thought it was like 125 people.
That's full capacity?
I think so. Amy knows much more than I do about the capacity of the pool. But even if you allow, 75 people in, you can't put that many people in the pool once you measure it out and divide it by 6. So I don't know what the answer is for it. So I just got the rate. So it's $4 to get in, or $6, $4, for a day pass for a resident, $3 for children. A discussion the mayor and I have had is that if we continue at this reduced capacity, at what point do you put restrictions on for only Emmitsburg residents or 21727 so that you don't encourage large groups from outside of the town come in to use the pool, and then because of the capacity restrictions, then your own residents, your taxpayers, can't come in and use the pool. So I think there's a lot of things to think about before we even open the pool up. And that, as far as the rates is concerned, I would defer to the mayor and the board on that one, knowing that we're not going to recoup the money this year on pool revenue, basically, unless it opens tomorrow, which we know that's not going to happen.
I agree with you completely, and I think it's obviously we want to have this conversation right now, but with the unknown of when the possibility of the pool opening, it's a difficult conversation to have because we just don't. There's such the unknown right now of where we'll be in July. Even will we be open? Will we not? What's the capacity going to be? What's going to be the regulations? And obviously, with the pool company, still not understanding what their role is going to be and how they're going to handle everything. I like having the conversation now, but I feel like we can't have the conversation fully until we further progress into stage 2 or wherever we are at that point to figure it out.
I agree. I think there's a lot of unknown variables, and I know conversations with the mayor. The one thing I think we're pretty sure of is there won't be any season passes available this year. Because as long as you have capacity restrictions, if you're a season pass holder and you show up and it's over capacity and you can't get in, there's not, you're not getting the full benefit of having a season pass. So I know that's something that we have discussed, that in fairness to our community, it wouldn't be fair to sell season passes when we can't guarantee that you can even get in.
Correct.
And uncertain of the future. We may be able to open, and if there's another rise, we might have to turn around and close. So I think there's a lot to figure out still.
Mr. Sweeney?
No.
Yes, Commissioner O'Donnell.
Thank you, sir. A couple thoughts. I suspect that our main goal here is to drive visits to the pool. That's, I think, where we were before the COVID crisis occurred, with limitations on capacity, and even before that, the shutdown of the pool. A few thoughts regarding the idea of allowing folks to use the pool on a free day. I think if we were to make a pass available for that free day, announce it well in advance, whatever that free day is, even if it's not the opening day, I think that would be one means by which we could manage the numbers. The next part, I think, would be is if we find ourselves dealing with capacity issues, given the fact that there's so little else to do at the moment, we might look at it in a way like a movie theater, where you have pool times from, let's say, noon to 3 o'clock, and then you clear the pool out, and then you readmit people from 3 o'clock till close at 7 p.m. or whatever our close time is. And by breaking it up into 2 sections for the day, you give more people the opportunity to access the pool. And again, you might have to go to a pass system, and it's obviously slightly more complicated. but that way you can preempt overcrowding so long as people are aware that there is a pass system. I don't think we're going to find our pool overwhelmed by people, but obviously in talking to folks at different parks and seeing what's happening on the trails, there's a lot more demand for outdoor activities. We've seen it in our own community. The other item, going back to the original thought of, again, driving visits to the pool and having a discount day for consideration, I don't recall if it was Wednesday or Tuesday that had the lowest attendance days, but maybe we consider on those days half price access for town residents. So the adult would be $2, the child would be $1.50, the senior citizen 60 and over would be $1.50. And that way we can kind of fortify that weaker day in attendance. And I agree that, yeah, we don't have all the variables in front of us, but I think it's better if we try to plan something now. Perhaps we can act on it and modify it when we get closer to the time when we actually are comfortable and feel it's appropriate to open the pool. So just that's kind of where I am on it.
And another thing to keep in mind is reading, the governor's order on pools from the Maryland Department of Health. The pool company may have to supply an additional guard or lifeguard each day, which is going to drive, plus all the additional cleaners and things that they're going to have to buy may drive the cost of the contract up. That's something that we're going to have to keep in mind also. But I actually like the idea of the lowest attendance day and half price access for town residents.
I agree.
I like that, and you're right, it'll drive people maybe away from coming to the busiest days, and maybe we can then limit capacity issues when we get to that point.
And I like the pass issue too, maybe split it up, allow them from 1 to 3 and then 3 to 3:30 to 7 or something like that. That might work too for.
You mean purchase ahead of time?
Yeah. If you're going to be sold out for that time, that's all full for that time zone.
Would you, just to follow up with Commissioner O'Donnell's thought, would you be able to then pre-purchase like day before tickets, kind of like, so if you're there on a Wednesday, you would like to come on Thursday, it would actually help the pool then determine, the pool staff then determine the number of people that will be in attendance the next day, because they'll be like, okay, look, we had 40 people purchase passes for Thursday at 12 o'clock. We know our capacity is going to be an additional 30 people and things of that nature. So Commissioner O'Donnell might be right on the money with, setting up maybe a pass system, a ticket system, or something along those lines, so that it helps to maybe contain some of the rush onto the pool or things of that nature during busier times.
And they could be sold at the door at the pool, at the front door. Whoever runs the front, they could sell, the next day tickets, there, and that way they'll have a count. of
Right,
how
because
many
you wouldn't be able to come in on a Saturday to purchase tickets for a Sunday. I mean, these are something, a conversation with our pool company tomorrow is going to be really helpful to give us a better idea of what they're going to be willing to do going forward. The only thing I know for sure from them is they need 2 weeks' notice before they'll open the pool. So what I can do is, after my conversation with the pool tomorrow, I'll at least email everybody so with an update on the pool from at least their perspective. Might help us with some of our decisions.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Alrighty, thank you. Mr. Ritz, are you there?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Yay?
We're waiting for your commissioner comments.
Oh, boy. Okay, first off, I'd like to apologize. The very first time we had the meeting, I called in. Everything was fine. Last time, the Zoom worked perfect. Everybody was crystal clear. I was having Wi-Fi problems today. I telework, so I was having some issues with that. I was hoping it wasn't going to lead into the evening, but unfortunately it did. So I am calling you from the commissioner's office right behind the wall. So hi, everybody. This brings up something because of my inability to get in. Regarding the Zoom meetings going forward, if we're going to have these, if someone were to call in for public comment, how much advance notice do they have to give the town office?
I think Maddie put out, we need notice by 7:25. 7:30. That's why we're starting 5 minutes late. She'll
Okay.
check, she's taking emails and phone calls up till 7:30.
Okay, because yeah, when I called in, then obviously I had issues there, so I called in and I was put on hold with the call-in number. So I was talking, everybody couldn't hear me, but I was unmuted for myself, but no one could hear me because I guess you didn't know that call-in person was me.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that's, we're working through everything.
Okay, well, great. So if anybody, as long as it's before 7:30, they just have to let Maddie know, and
Right, so she'll take their name and phone number, so when they log in to the call, I think all she has to do is accept them at that point, and
Okay.
then they'll be notified when it's their turn. What will happen, she would then unmute that person during public comment, because they couldn't speak during any other portion of the meeting, but they could speak at public comment.
okay, so like if they know what phone number they're going to be calling from, of course that could change, but if they know which number they're calling from, it would be helpful.
Right, correct.
Okay, great. So that was the first thing. Second, just real quick, I know I thank you everybody for allowing me to do this so late here. I did chat with the Emmitsburg Post Office postmaster. There are plans in place to provide more street delivery, alleviating the necessity of having P.O. boxes in town. So that's just in the works.
That's
so
a big win.
That's all I have. I'm sorry, but everybody stay tuned for that. So that's some exciting news. And third, to touch on what Commissioner O'Donnell was discussing, because I could hear everything, that emergency group was the Emmitsburg Community Emergency PPE team.
Yes,
by
sir.
the acronym of ESEPT. And
Like that, yes.
my understanding that was organized by former Commissioner Buckman. I did get some information from a gentleman named Bill Hartman,
Yes.
who and I guess maybe you received this information as well. They did make over 1,500 cloth face masks as of May 24th, which were supplied to various places such as Frederick Hospital, St. Catherine's, Dr. Portier, Jubilee, et cetera, et cetera. They worked with the Mount using 3D printers, making 125 face shields. Some of those went to St. Catherine's and Dr. Portier. And 50 disposable isolation gowns went to St. Catherine's. And I was going to touch on that this evening, and it actually just a segue into what you mentioned earlier. And that's all I have for my comments.
All
Thank
righty.
you.
We'll move on to the last administrative business item.
Public comment.
We do have public comment. Is there anybody called in for public comment?
Okay.
No public comment. Okay, we have a presentation for the Lions Club for a shed to put a new shed in the community park since they are losing their site if it's sold in the future here, where they have theirs now.
So I received a letter from the Emmitsburg Lions Club, Bill Wyville, requesting permission from the town to place a new 14-foot by 28-foot storage building in the corner parking lot of the Senior League baseball field. The new carriage-style garage building will be covered with vinyl siding and with one 9-foot by 7-foot overhead door on one end and a 3-foot entrance door on one side. It will be a movable building. The Lions Club will assume all the expenses for the cost of this building, including any permits that may be required. Thank you so much for your consideration and support of this matter. We look forward to hearing from you that we may proceed with this purchase and placement as noted above. Just a note, I've talked to our Public Works Director, and town staff does not have a problem with this request. I think the mayor is in favor as well. Is that correct?
Mr. Mayor. Yes, this has to be voted on by the town council.
Mr. Sweeney, do you recuse yourself in this as
Yes, I
president of the
will.
Lions?
I will not be voting on this, no. That's why
Okay.
it was presented by another member.
Great.
It's not a permanent structure. There'll be no concrete concrete pad poured. It does not need electric or does not need plumbing.
It's just all the stuff for the fundraising and stuff that we do for the town is kept in the one at Zerg Gables, and he is maybe be selling that in the near future. So, and we can't move the other one. The other building's too old. So, and they would, this would help the Lions Club out immensely because we don't have any other place to put it.
Should I ask then, Mr. Vice President, do we need a motion?
We do, but before, are there any other questions for staff or for Mr. Sweeney?
I have one question.
Yes, Mr. Burns.
President Sweeney, do you have any concerns of the overall safety of the items in there since you will be putting it in the town park? Would we designate maybe a camera in that area just to protect that, or anything else that you would be concerned about with it being more of an isolated shed in the park?
No, because it will have no windows. It'll be a solid, brand new shed. It will have a solar, I don't know what you call it, automatic light will come on if you get near the building. So that'll be just attached. Doesn't require electricity. It's just a solar. It'll have solar light on it if anybody gets near the building.
And I believe there's a new light pole back in that parking lot, isn't there?
And it will be all the way at the end of the far end parking lot in the corner near it is well seen for the houses. It's in Silo Hill, or not Silo Hill, but Southgate. It'll be visible for them, but it'll look like it's part of their neighborhood. But we don't have we don't feel that it'll be damaged anyway. There's so many people goes through the park and stuff, and it's in a location that's not hidden. It'll be in sight.
Is it going to be on the parking lot side, closer to the baseball field, I assume?
It'll be on towards the Southgate. It'll be the parking lot on the Southgate side. You know, the Southgate side, all the way to where you enter the blacktop pathway. But it'll be, it'll be on the, I guess it will be west side of the gate. So it won't block the gate.
And it'll be inside the gated area or out of the grass
it'll be
area?
right outside the gate. There'll be the last parking spot in that parking lot. The last parking space up against the fence is where Jimmy, Mr. Click had picked out the spot for it. So he looked in both parks, and they chose this spot because it's visible to the public, and they feel that it'll be less damage or anything done to it there.
Does town staff have any concerns about this?
No, we're fine with it.
Great. Okay. Mr. Sweeney, I'll wait a few minutes for you to bring me the gavel. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. And any other questions or comments for staff or Mr. Sweeney related to this item?
Last one, Commissioner O'Donnell, is there's no concern. Obviously, the residents of Southgate would object to that going in. Obviously, it's community park, which is Emmitsburg property, but it would be backed up to someone's house. Is there any concern with that, or?
I wouldn't see why not. There's vehicles and traffic down through there all the time. It's just it's not a large shed, and it's tucked back in the parking lot owned by the town.
Yep, just wanted to make sure we're all clear. I would hate to see someone raise questions after the fact.
Sure. Okay. Is there a motion to allow the shed to be sited in Community Park?
I'll make a motion. We approve the Lions Club request for the building in the park.
Great.
I'll second the motion.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis. It's been seconded by Commissioner Burns. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any against? Okay. Thump. The motion carries 4-0 with Commissioner Sweeney abstaining. Thank you. Mr. Sweeney, I hand you back the gavel.
Thank you. Alrighty, going on to the main agenda items. Let me see here.
Are we not going to discuss the community park naming?
Oh, I'm sorry, Gene Maris. I jumped by Gene, I'm sorry. I was waiting for Joe to come to before we spoke about that. Item number A for discussion of renaming Community Park in honor of Gene Maris. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, I can start out. Back in the 1970s, baseball and softball became a big thing in Emmitsburg. And at that time, we were actually using only one field for everything. And Gene Myers, being very active, I'm not sure if he's on the town council back then, but I know he was active in the town in some ways with planning and zoning and what have you, had a vision of turning what is Community Park into just what he did. And he spent countless hours of his own time and Lord knows how much money, because back then there was no grants. The town didn't have any money. And he was able to muster together the money and the manpower to take basically an old hayfield and begin the development of Community Park. At one point where the playground is now, that was a softball field. And then of course we've had the other fields that are currently there now. And I just think it would be an honor to him and his family. His family's still very active in the town. Still has grandchildren that live in town and children that live right on the outskirts. That park be named in memory or honor of him.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Davis. Any other commissioners would want to speak? I don't know how many know him. I've been here 23 years on the town council. Gene was I think actually mayor at one time also. I'm pretty sure. He was part of the planning, zoning, and the parks. When I became commissioner, there was there was a tennis court put in, a clay tennis court that was put in. There was an ice skating ring. It was beside the dog park, which is grown up now, but you can still see the water. It's full of frogs, but it's still there. And Gene and them put that in at that time. And I was still in middle school then, back at that time. But he's done a lot. He was very heavy with the town and the parks. His whole family was. So I don't have any problem.
And also, just to add to that, the number of people that it brought to town every, I would say probably 6 weekends out of the summer, the town was loaded with ball players. And of course, they went to restaurants and went to the other businesses in town. And it made a big impact on the community back in the 70s and 80s.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, Mr. Myers was mayor of Emmitsburg about 1978 to 1980. He was in between Mayor Sprankle's 2 terms.
if I may.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor?
He was a fine gentleman. He spent countless years with the Vigilant Hose and also for the town, and a businessman here in the town, and as a parishioner of St. Joe's. Very, very fine family, a very, very fine gentleman.
Any more discussion?
Yes, sir. I'll just throw an idea out. Mr. Davis, as you brought this forward, I would invite you to consider making the motion.
Well, I'd be more than happy to. I'd be honored to do that, as a matter of fact. I'd like to make a motion that the town of Emmitsburg name the community park in memory or in honor of former mayor and Eugene Myers.
I second.
Motion's been made by Commissioner Davis and seconded by Commissioner Ritz. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any nays? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you all very much for that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty, now let's see what we got. Planning report. Is that what we're on now? I think we did all the rest of them.
Mr. President, I believe
Can I
we're
go
on the
back to
treasurer's
A
report.
and get some clarification on what you want the park actually named? Because I'm sure that, when we apply for funding and change the website and everything, we want to use the name consistently of what you want the park to be named.
Does anybody have any suggestions?
He was known as Gene, but his correct name, he went by E. Eugene. I think his first name was Edward, but nobody ever called him Edward. So his correct name is E. Eugene, but he went by Gene Myers. So I think maybe, would that be a question for the family?
That's a fair question. Yes. I mean, in my opinion, I think that would be the appropriate thing to investigate.
And not to be a stickler, but this was just a discussion item, so maybe we could do some follow-up with the family and bring the topic back in July and have an official designation and official name after somebody talks to the family, and maybe a discussion on if you want to do like an unveiling, if you want to get a sign, how you want to proceed.
Commissioner Davis, can you think you can talk to Gene's family
Sure, I can that won't be a problem.
and maybe see what they suggest? And
maybe they would like to, I believe the July 13th meeting will still be virtual at this point. Maybe they'd like to participate in the call for that agenda item.
I can make that happen.
You just
Okay.
get some recognition.
So,
Commissioner
Mr. Davis, I jumped the gun. I'm sorry, but I'm going to recommend you do it next time too. Okay?
all righty.
Commissioner Davis, if we could, we have a special ceremony. I know we're getting backed up on that with the disc golf, the bridge, and now this, but hopefully we can have some special ceremony dedication. Thank you.
Yeah, I would hope so, that we could get some signs and things like that. So, okay, yep, I will get with the family.
All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. All right, Planning Commission report, Zach? Or Mr. Ritz, whoever.
Well,
again?
Mr. President, I would like to, here in the agenda, I'll turn it over to Commissioner O'Donnell. I believe the Treasury report is before mine.
He give it while we was kind of connect up to you.
Oh, when I was unavailable. I do apologize. Okay,
Have
I
anything
didn't
you
hear
would
it
like
then.
to add, do you have anything on the Treasury report you'd like to ask
I have
about?
nothing to ask. My famous question is addressed. It's there, so no problem.
It was a great report, sir.
I have no doubts. Okay, Planning Commission. The Planning Commission met on May 5th, and the site plan was approved for the Insurance Brokers of Maryland at the former Baldacchino property there on East Main Street. And that's all I wrote. I'm sorry, it's not very detailed. If Zach would like to chime in, he's more than welcome to.
No, that was perfect, though. They plan on opening, well, they originally were planning on opening on June 1st. However, with the COVID crisis, they're probably going to be pushed back, I would say July-ish. They still have a lot more work to do on the outside of their property than on the inside. So it's a great investment in our town. And that's everything I have.
Is that all you got for the Planning Commission?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
I do have two questions, or maybe two updates Zach can give.
Sure.
I don't know if anybody else wants to, if you can give an update on the rudders.
Okay, yeah, sure. So Rudders is still going through their MDE permitting process. They have submitted their plans to Frederick County. They have not been approved yet. It's a really slow process, and now especially with this pandemic. So they're still pushing forward.
How about Dunkin' Donuts?
Yep, Dunkin' Donuts, they chose their contractor. I spoke to Mr. Patel, I think it was last week, and their contractor is going to start putting up a fence, the required fence here in the next week or two. And they are pushing forward. That's going to be any day now. We wanted to do a groundbreaking, but with everything going on, we probably won't be doing that. But we'll have to see.
All right.
Has there been any inquiries related to the hotel that was once discussed?
Sure. So I've reached out to the proposed hotel owner twice in the past few months, and I have not received a response.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think it is. Oh, and and the Emmett Ridge 2 property, you had interest in that, correct?
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. We've probably had 3 or 4 different organizations that have interest in it. They dramatically reduced the price, and from my understanding, it is under review right now. There's a company that's doing their due diligence. So, however, that's been done before by a few other companies. And they backed out. But this one seems pretty interested. So the mayor and I and Kathy's been talking with them and giving them as much information we can to be as open as possible in the process.
Will it be the same? Will be finishing the development out? Will they be doing Irish Town Road? Do you know?
So there's been multiple different requests. The most famous one right now, I guess, or most popular is townhomes because they can fit more in there. And the amount of work and money in order to improve Irish Town Road, they have to put a 10-inch water line on Irish Town, and there's a lot of improvements to their stormwater basin they have to do. So there is a lot of money that has to be put in up front, and especially those 2 roads there. So what's looking a lot more are looking towards townhouses, but I can't say 100%.
We are going to require them to have an entrance from Irish Town Road to go through because of Northgate 2, correct?
That's correct. Absolutely.
Okay.
That's our number one. That'll be phase 1 requirement.
Thank you. Any other questions for Zach before we move on?
Hey, Zach, I have one question for you real quick.
Sure.
There is a house listed at 606 East Main Street, the extension there. It's right as you leave Jubilee and head to get onto Route 15 there.
Mm-hmm.
In the overview listing, and this is the question, it says one of a kind, possible conversion to commercial. Is that considered the B1 or the B1 or B2? It's 2 houses down from the old Baldacchino house that Bobby Phelan has put his insurance agency.
Going towards
going towards 15. So if you're facing Bobby's the new insurance building, it would be 2 houses down on the on the left.
So the Baldacchino is actually the last B1 zone. So they would actually have to get that house in the middle as well if they want to rezone. They can't. Okay. So if
I was just looking at the, obviously the property listings in town for different various listings, and the realtor listed it as possible conversion to commercial, and I just wanted to see if this was a true statement or where that actually was.
Yeah, that's the R1 district over there, so they would have to do a little bit of legwork.
Okay.
Yeah, Zach and I talked about that property. It's been listed for a little while now, and right now it is not eligible for rezoning.
Right.
They'd have to do legwork.
Okay, yeah, it's a former college property. Actually knew the parents who owned that and then sold it, and it's obviously been relisted. Given everything that's going on with Mount St. Mary's right now, and the rumors flying around about how they're going to plan to open in the fall, there's obviously going to be some interest in it from parents at some point in time.
Sure, absolutely.
Any other questions for Zach? Hearing none, we're going to move on to the main agenda items. Approval of Resolution 20-06, Community Legacy Grant submittal. Is that Zach? Zach, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So each year we submit an application or two for different projects. This first one is going to be for the Emmitsburg Townwide ADA Compliance curb ramp project. As we spoke, I guess probably a few meetings ago, we are going to apply for funding for